Welcome back to WhatGear Reviews, and today I'm doing a highly requested video here on the channel, and it's the Sony Xperia 5 versus the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus. And I have to apologize for my last video, the Xperia 1 versus Note 10 Plus, where I took the selfie slightly wrong at a slightly different angle and it affected the end result, and a lot of you guys complained about it. So I'm going to take a bunch of selfies today, so this time no mistakes. And I just want to say a big thank you to David from BTech for hooking up this Sony Xperia 5. I'm still on the waiting list. I still haven't received one, but I got a short loan from David so that I could make this video for you guys. So go check out his channel. It's really awesome. Loads of tech related stuff as well. Anyway, are you ready? Let's go. So from time to time throughout this video, you'll see a little blue spinning thing in the top right corner, and that will be an opportunity for you to vote for which phone is winning. And once you do that, you'll be able to see what everyone else is voting for, so keep your eyes open for it. Picture 1. This is quite a close range shot of a wild berry resting on a moss covered tree. And the first thing you'll notice about this image is the white balance and the color saturation differences. The Xperia 5 photo has a much cooler blue tone to it, whereas the Note 10 has a much warmer orange tone to it. And I think the AI on the Note 10 photo has definitely kicked in here and has boosted up the colors quite a bit. Now let's get a better look by zooming in 100% in post editing to see which one has better detail. So now you can see actually the Note 10 in this particular scenario has done a really good job of preserving the fine details, and this could be down to a number of factors, but let's move on to the next one. Picture 2, the selfie test. So one very apparent difference here that you'll notice is the Xperia 5 has a much wider field of view, and I think this is the reason in my first video, the Xperia 1 versus the Note 10 Plus, selfie went wrong, is because of this wider angle. It was capturing this shaft of light that was hitting the lens directly, even though the images were pretty much identical. Anyway, if you want to check out that video, I'll link it at the end of this one. So in this photo, the Note 10 seems to be doing a better job of preserving highlights at the top of my head, and the Xperia 5 seems to be delivering a more natural color picture. It's incredibly close, this one, so I'm gonna have to leave it up to you guys to decide which one wins the selfie shootout. There's a poll up in the top right corner, so cast your vote. Okay, picture 3, autumn leaves. Now I think this is the perfect example of where AI can go wrong. The Note 10 Plus has boosted the color saturation so much so that it looks almost artificial, whereas the Xperia 5 again has done a great job of delivering a natural color range, although it has also added quite a lot of background blur on the Xperia 5 photo, whereas the Note 10 Plus has way more detail in the background, but I think the colors are just a little bit off. Let me know which one of these you prefer in the comments below. Let's move on to a macro shot. Picture 4, macro mushroom. So trust me on this, going into 2020, I foresee that all of the big smartphone manufacturers will be emphasizing this feature, the macro shot. And these photos were taken at about 7 centimeters away from this wild mushroom, and I just wanted to see which one does better at extreme close range. So here on the Note 10 Plus, you can see it's doing a great job of capturing the detail all around the top of the mushroom, whereas the Sony seems to be blurring a little bit at the center there. And that's not to say that the Sony couldn't focus on this, it just wouldn't focus on this. And if you look at the bottom of the picture, you can see that twig there, which is perfectly in focus on the Sony and completely blurred out on the Note 10. That makes me believe the Sony is certainly capable. It was just fighting me. I was trying to focus on the mushroom and it just wasn't letting me do it. But anyway, let me know what you think of the results on this one, and let's move on to picture 5, a HDR shot. So in order to get HDR to work on the Sony Xperia 5, you have to open the manual mode and switch it on. And I made an entire video about how to do that, so I'll link that at the end of this video. But anyway, check this photo out. There was an extremely bright backlight there at the back of the photo. And normally what happens if you leave auto mode on is the foreground becomes incredibly dark and it just ruins the picture, or the background light is so blown out it just looks horrible. So HDR is what you want to use when you have strong light sources. So on the left, on the Sony Xperia 5, it's delivering amazing details on the subject of the photo, which is the camera, my Sony a7 III. And you can see it's kind of added this bokeh background effect behind it. The black levels there on the camera itself are really awesome, and it's handling the backlight really well, although it's a bit blurred out. Then on the Note 10 Plus photo, it also looks awesome, although there's no blurry background effect, and the details on the tree are preserved all the way into the background, and the clouds in the sky also look pretty crisp as well. However, when it comes to the foreground and the subject of the photo, maybe the Sony Xperia 5 wins this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And now I'm just going to roll these next 3 photos for you guys to take a look at. Let me know what you think of each one of those, and then we'll get into some side-by-side video tests. Alright, so we're about halfway through the video now, and I thought I should pause here and do a little selfie video camera test so you can hear the difference between the audio on the 2 devices. And also, I think I should tell you some of the things that I've been experiencing with the Xperia when it comes to making this video. So you know Sony make amazing cameras, and they've got all of the camera tech in there. But what I found in this video is actually you have to spend a little bit more time to fine-tune your photos, whether that be going into the manual settings, turning on the HDR and nothing else. When you do that in these kind of conditions where it's very bright, you get a much better photo. And also, one of the other things you probably want to do if you have a Sony Xperia 1 or Xperia 5 is use the spot metering, the spot focusing to really fine-tune your photo. The Samsung kind of does it automatically. Yes, you can still do it, but it makes a massive difference when you do it on the Sony device. Anyway, this has been the selfie video on the 2. Let me know which one's winning this. There's a poll up in the top corner. Let's crack on with the video. So this is the perfect example of how just going into the manual settings and switching on HDR can make a massive difference on the Sony Xperia 5. So this is a photo taken using the regular selfie camera with the regular camera mode, and the Note 10 does a great job at handling the high dynamic range situation. The Xperia 5 really struggles here, and you can see that in the areas on the left side of the photo where the highlights are just completely blown out. Now check this out. When you switch manual HDR on, all of those details on the left hand side of the image come back. And actually with HDR on, I think you can make a case for the Sony Xperia 5 winning this particular shootout. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And now let's move on to some lens tests. So this is the primary shooter. Warmer tones on the Sony, cooler tones on the Note 10 Plus. Details are comparable. Now let's do the 2x zoom. Again, very closely matched. The white balances carry over. And now the ultra wide. It's so damn close. However, I can see that on the Note 10 photos it preserves a little bit more details in the shadows, but maybe in those areas it looks a bit misty, and some of you guys might prefer the Sony look on this one. let me know in the comments below, and I'm going to roll the next 3 photos for you guys, and then we're going to get into some night shots. So, night shot 1. I'm really happy to say that it seems that Sony have made some significant improvements to their night mode. Even though they actually don't have a dedicated night mode, it does automatically adjust. And having used the Xperia 1 in the past, I noticed it straight away. So when you look at these 2 photos, the Sony does an amazing job of capturing details on the brickwork and the sharp edges, and it seems to use quite a fast shutter speed. Whereas on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, it uses a dedicated night mode with a longer exposure and then kind of stitches it all together. What you sometimes get around sharp edges is a bit of blur, and you can see that in this photo. So when it comes to details and sharpness, the Sony wins. But one area where the Note 10 does really great at night is around the bright light sources. So the lettering across the top of the building is unreadable on the Sony photo, whereas on the Note 10 Plus photo you can read it. So pros and cons for both. Let me know which one's winning this. There's a poll up in the top right corner for you to vote. Once you do that, you'll be able to see what everyone else is saying. So here's a London street sign with street lighting above it, and both images have good detail, but the Sony night algorithm seems to be adding way too much warm tones in this one. And I think this might be the first photo in this comparison where the Sony colors are not as natural as they should be. So maybe we got to give this one to the Note 10 Plus. And here's another similar shot of an electrical box. Again, the Sony has much sharper edges and way more fine details, and you can see that on the bushes on the left hand side. But again, I think the colors are slightly off, and the Note 10 Plus maybe has better color accuracy here. And here's a night selfie, and I'm going to leave this one up to you guys to decide which one is better here. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe. And if you just subscribed, then that means you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man. And if you want to check out how to use the manual settings on the Sony Xperia 1 or Xperia 5 in a bit more depth, I made a dedicated video about that. You can check that out, it's on screen right now, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't be late.